It was just another ordinary night at the neighborhood bar. Loud music, loose laughter, glasses clinking on the bar. But that night, two sons of billionaires, laughing loudly and visibly drunk, decided to play gods. "Hey you," one of them shouted, pointing at the waitress. "If you lose 44 pounds in a month, I'll marry you." Silence. The sentence cut through the air like a knife. The woman, sweaty with dark circles under her eyes and a tight uniform, stood in the middle of the room with her tray in hand. For a moment, everything disappeared. The noise, the lights, the late orders. She swallowed hard. She knew they were making fun of her. She knew that, to them, she was nothing more than a joke. But she also knew something else. At home, she had a bedridden mother, two young brothers, and a nearly empty refrigerator. Cell phones started recording. The video was uploaded to social media before she could even respond. Whiskey Jack's bar was bustling that night, as it had been on so many others. It was the kind of place where the bored elite mingled with the exhausted, sipping beer and listening to live rock. The amber lights gave the place the feel of an old movie. Loud laughter drifted like smoke. To the outsider, it was just another ordinary night. In the brightest corner of the bar, two figures stood out. Chase Donovan, with his beautiful hair and his designer shirt open at the chest, held a glass of $200 whiskey as if it were soda. Beside him, a friend, as spoiled as he was, laughed out loud. They didn't speak, they shouted. And they laughed as if the world were there just to entertain them. Chase was the only son of one of California's richest men. He grew up surrounded by security, private jets, and parties in Ocean View mansions. He never washed a dish, never saw a bill, never heard the word no. His girlfriends? Models and influencers. His job? None. His hobby? Doing stupid things. Life, for Chase, was like a board game where he always rolled the highest die. There were no limits, no empathy, no sense of reality. His greatest achievement so far was breaking records for irresponsibility and ostentation. He was the typical arrogant rich kid, incapable of seeing beyond his own ego. To him, people were pawns, and everything was a game. It was then that his eyes met someone completely out of place, the waitress. Sweaty, with dark circles under her eyes and a worn apron, she walked by with a tray laden with glasses. The name on her name tag? Emily. But Chase didn't care about names. He just wanted attention. And worse, he wanted an audience. "Hey, you!" he shouted, laughing. "If you lose 44 pounds in a month, I'll marry you." The entire bar froze. The laughter stopped. Eyes turned to Emily, who stood in the middle of the room. Her face turned wine red. Her hands, holding the tray, began to tremble. For a second, everyone expected her to cry. But Emily wasn't one to shy away or to lower her head. After a few seconds of silence, she looked up. There was something new in them, something between anger, pain, and a flame no one there had noticed before. She took a deep breath and answered, "Okay, I accept." The silence turned into a buzz. Cell phones were pulled out. Nervous laughter, whispers, and shocked looks began to circulate around the bar. Chase raised an eyebrow, surprised, but still amused. To him, it was still a joke, a stupid challenge. But Emily was serious. The waitress turned away and continued working. Her heart was still pounding, but it wasn't fear. It was a decision, a revolt, and perhaps a chance. At that moment, Emily wasn't thinking about marriage. She was thinking about something much bigger, and this story had barely begun. That same night, while Emily was still cleaning tables, the video was already on social media. A customer had recorded it all. Chase's scream, Emily's firm response, the silence in the bar. Within hours, TikTok exploded. Instagram was flooded with lip syncs, reactions, memes, and the most common caption was, "This is going to be a hot topic." Thousands of comments poured in. Some mocked, others defended, but no one ignored it. The video became a national debate. TV shows, influencers, health experts, feminists, comedians, everyone had something to say. The absurd bet of a spoiled playboy was now a topic of discussion across the country. Meanwhile, Emily came home, tired, smelling of grease and sweat. She lived on the outskirts of Detroit, in a small, cramped 2-story house with her sick mother and 2 young brothers. She worked 3 shifts and also cleaned at night to pay the bills. She never had time for herself, not even to dream. The next morning, a coworker showed her the video. Emily saw herself in full screen. She saw the steady eyes, the unstuttered response, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel small. This wasn't just embarrassment, it was a chance. Crazy, unfair, but real. She knew the world could laugh, and it did, but there was a door. What if she could? Not for the marriage, but for what it could mean. Visibility, change, freedom, for her mother, for her brothers, for her. Emily decided she would try, and he wouldn't ask for permission. Across town, Chase woke up with a headache, more from his mother's screams than his hangover. "What have you done, Chase?" she said over the phone. "Do you have any idea what's going on?" His father, more blunt, warned, "You exposed us. If you don't fix this, you're out of the company." Chase tried to laugh it off, but the news portals, the videos with millions of views, and the hate messages made it clear this wasn't going to go away. It wasn't just a moment anymore. It was a phenomenon, and now the world wanted to see if he had the courage to keep his promise. The bet was made, and millions were watching. The board of directors of his father's company issued a statement. Lawyers contacted him. The press was knocking on his door. Chase, for the first time, felt the weight of his own name. The joke had become a bombshell, and no one could take back what had already been said, nor could anyone erase what had already gone viral. Meanwhile, Emily received a message from a local NGO offering support. They had seen the video, and they wanted to help her if she decided to take on the challenge. A community gym opened up space and set up a free workout plan. The game had changed, and she was ready. Emily looked in the mirror, still panting from exhaustion, her hair tied in a messy bun and the dark circles under her eyes etched like tattoos. But there was something new there. It wasn't just a tired body. It was a determined woman, and with a sparkle in her eyes that not even fatigue could dim. Emily began her journey the next day, before sunrise. She put on old sneakers, tied up her hair, and went to the community gym that had offered help. The space was simple, with old equipment, but full of stories. There, she was greeted with respect, not as an internet joke, but as someone with courage. For the first time, she felt truly seen. It was there that she met Jake Miller. He was tall, strong, with a serious expression and kind eyes. A former soldier, Jake had left the military after an injury and now spent his time training people in the community. Hearing Emily's story, he was silent for a few seconds. Then he said, "If you have the strength to fight, I have the strength to guide you." And she accepted. Jake carefully crafted a plan. No crazy diets or extreme exercise. He knew the body has limits, and that Emily was already living on the edge of exhaustion. But he saw something special in her, a raw, genuine determination he rarely saw in anyone, and he decided to help her, not for fame, but for respect. As the days passed, Emily's routine changed. Early morning workouts, runs in the cold, simple meals, no time to think about fatigue. Her body began to change, but what was most surprising was the sparkle in her eyes. She laughed more. She walked with her chest held high,
and she no longer hid behind baggy clothes and hurried steps. Jake also began to change. He avoided social media, but he couldn't escape the avalanche of messages about Emily. People from all over the country supported her, inspired her, rooted for her. But to him, Emily wasn't the waitress who took a bet. She was a strong, whole woman who challenged the impossible with her feet firmly planted on the ground. Meanwhile, Chase watched from afar. He saw Emily's body changing, but most of all, he saw what he never had: inner strength. She wasn't doing this for him, and that hurt, because the more she grew, the more he shrank from the world. For the first time, Chase felt small. The public began to compare the two. On one side, the immature playboy who humiliated a woman in public. On the other, a common working woman who was teaching the entire country a lesson. And ironically, the older Emily grew, the more people began to forget that it all started with him. Jake sensed something more was brewing there. He didn't see Emily as an internet project. He saw her as a role model, an inspiration, and increasingly as someone he deepened his role: guide, friend, support, without invading her space. Emily, in turn, also noticed Jake, the way he believed in her without asking for anything in return, how he respected her pain and celebrated her quieter victories. The connection between them was subtle but growing, and even in silence, something inside her was already beginning to change too. But Emily remained focused. Time was ticking. Chase's foolish promise was now a countdown before millions of eyes. And she knew, no matter the ending, she was already winning. Because for the first time, she was fighting for herself, and there was no turning back. Emily's story took on national proportions. Newspapers and TV shows began following her every step, chronicling her struggle as a true symbol of overcoming obstacles. Podcasts dedicated entire episodes to the waitress who accepted the bet. Social media was abuzz with messages of support, exercise tips, healthy recipes, and inspiring testimonials. Thousands of people sent Emily messages, many offering workout gear, clothing, and even financial assistance. She, who never imagined she'd be noticed, became a role model for those who needed to believe that real change was possible. Each word of encouragement made her chest swell. The girl who could barely breathe at the bar was now inspiring multitudes. Meanwhile, Chase tried to escape the spotlight. The disapproving looks and persistent questions wouldn't leave him alone. Friends and family held him accountable, while the media kept asking, would he keep his promise? The criticism was harsh, but he knew that wasn't the worst part. It was what was happening inside him. Something new and unexpected began to blossom in Chase's heart. He began following Emily's every post, reading the comments, feeling her strength. It wasn't just a stupid bet anymore. It was something bigger, a life lesson he'd never received. The girl at the bar was showing him the true meaning of courage. In a surprising turn of events, Chase decided to reach out. He walked to the gym where Emily trained, carrying a simple bouquet of flowers. Without his previous arrogance, he apologized. "I messed up," he said sincerely. "I want to really get to know you, to admire who you are, not just the bet that turned into a spectacle." Emily received the flowers, but she wasn't moved. She knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter. "The challenge isn't over," she replied firmly. "I have a goal, and it's not to marry you. It's to achieve my own worth." Her gaze was firm, a reflection of the strength she had built. The press loved the scene. Photos and videos went viral again, but this time with a different tone. The narrative was no longer just provocation, but about transformation, learning, and respect. Emily became an active voice, and Chase, an example that even the most lost can find their way. Emily's fan base continued to grow. People from all over sent messages telling her how she had changed their lives. Many identified with her daily struggles, her fears, her hope. She became a symbol of resistance and empowerment. But most importantly, she was taking ownership of her own story. Meanwhile, Chase struggled with his own demons. His wounded pride gave way to humility and true repentance. He knew he couldn't erase the past, but he could change the future. And for the first time, he wanted to do something for others, not just himself. The gamble was just the beginning of a greater transformation. And amidst this turmoil, Emily remained steadfast. He knew the greatest challenge was yet to come, the pain, the fatigue, the pressure, but she also knew she was no longer alone, and that her struggle wasn't just hers. It belonged to all the people who believed that, with courage, love, and truth, it was possible to rewrite one's own destiny.
By the third week, Emily's body began sending clear signals that it could no longer sustain that frenetic pace. Dizziness appeared during workouts, muscle aches intensified, and nausea became constant. She tried to ignore it, but her body screamed for rest. At the hospital, the doctor was blunt. "You need to stop before it's too late." Jake, concerned, didn't mince words. "No prize, no bet is worth your health, Emily. I care about you. I truly do." He saw beyond the physical challenge. He saw her inner strength, but he knew boundaries needed to be respected. "You're not just a competitor. You're a person, and I want you to be well, not destroyed." But Emily had her reasons. "It's not for him, Jake," she said firmly. "It's for me, for my sick mother, for my brothers, for everything I left behind. I can't stop now. This is more than a gamble. It's my life, my chance to change everything." She knew she was risking too much, but she didn't want to give up on this dream. Between training sessions and consultations, Jake began to realize that his connection with Emily went beyond simple friendship. Their care became something deeper, more silent. In secret conversations, he confessed that he was falling in love, but knew he couldn't push her. "I'll be here, in your time, at your pace," he said with respect and patience. The media pressure remained intense, and Emily felt the need to show strength. But in her alone moments, exhaustion and doubt hit hard. Could she do it? How far could she go? And if she failed, what would that mean? The gamble became a test of limits, of choices, and she was in the midst of a storm. Even with her fear, Emily stood firm. Her body ached, but her mind and heart screamed louder. She didn't just want to lose weight, she wanted to find herself. She wanted to prove, especially to herself, that she was capable of more than anyone imagined, and that her worth didn't depend on promises made by others. Jake remained by her side, holding the bar when it nearly gave way. He was the voice of reason, of care, and silently, a safe haven amidst the chaos. To him, Emily was already more than just the waitress from the bet. She was a warrior, a woman fighting for something greater, and he was proud of that, even without knowing what the future held. The pressure also began to affect the relationship between Emily and Chase, who was trying to redeem himself, but trust was still far away. Emily knew he didn't understand the scale of the battle she was facing. For her, the bet was just the trigger. What came next was the real fight, with pain, choices, and limits. In the silence of her home, Emily looked at old family photos, remembering her mother's smile and her brother's laughter. It was for them that she took a deep breath and continued. The bet, the media, the public, everything took a back seat to the love that drove her. And even though she was tired, she knew she still had a long road ahead. And so, between pain and hope, weakness and strength, Emily moved forward. She learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but carrying on despite it, and that some battles are only won with patience and truth.
because in the end, the greatest victory was over oneself, and that was the bet that truly mattered. The 30th finally arrived. The gym hall was transformed for the big weigh-in, with cameras, journalists, and eager fans. The event was broadcast live on several channels, and millions of people around the country awaited the results. Emily entered wearing a simple outfit, but with a completely different demeanor, confident, serene, and determined. As she stepped on the scale, silence filled the room. All eyes were on her, fixed, attentive. The numbers slowly began to appear on the digital display. 44.5 pounds less. A weight loss that wasn't just physical, but emotional. A milestone in a journey that began with a bet and turned into so much more. The crowd erupted in applause, tears, and screams of emotion. People watching on television celebrated fervently, and on social media, the hashtag #EmilyWon dominated the trending topics. It was a victory that went beyond the scales, a victory of strength, determination, and self-love. In the midst of the celebration, Chase appeared from the crowd, holding a ring. Unlike the immature boy from the bar, he was now more serious, more humble. He approached Emily and said, his voice breaking, "I've changed. I've learned from you. And I don't want to keep this promise out of obligation, but out of love." Emily took a deep breath and looked at Jake, who had been by her side since the beginning. He remembered every difficult moment, the pain and struggle. She knew true strength lay there, in this man who believed in her when no one else did. The decision she had to make was about much more than Chase. "Chase," she replied firmly, "thank you for everything, but I'm not a prize, nor a challenge overcome. Today, I know my worth, and I choose the love that truly chose me." And with a smile, she walked up to Jake and kissed him, to everyone's applause and admiration. The audience was thrilled with the moment. True love had won the foolish bet. Emily didn't need empty promises. She needed respect, companionship, and truth. And for the first time, all of this was within her reach, genuinely and simply. On social media, videos of the kiss went viral, and thousands of comments celebrated her courage in saying no to what wasn't worth it. Emily became a symbol not only of physical overcoming, but also of emotional independence. The girl from the bar who had become a bet was now a woman. Chase stood there, watching, feeling the transformation around him. The pain of failure, the learning of humility, and the hope that perhaps one day he too could be someone better. But that day, the star was Emily, the true winner of the story. And as the lights dimmed in the ballroom, a new story began, not of bets or challenges, but of love, respect, and conscious choice. Because in the end, the greatest victory has always been being true to yourself.
Months after the weigh-in, Emily released her book titled Beyond the Bet. In it, she told her story in detail, unafraid to reveal the difficulties, the pain, and the small victories. The book became a bestseller, inspiring thousands of people to reinvent themselves and believe in their own worth. She finally found a voice for her truth. Emily also founded an institute dedicated to supporting women with low self-esteem, offering courses, therapies, and support networks. The institute grew quickly and gained national recognition. Jake became her inseparable partner, co-founder, and right-hand man in this mission to transform lives. Together, they brought stories like hers to light. The simple life Emily had always wanted was finally within reach. She and Jake lived in a modest home, away from the glare of the spotlight, but surrounded by love, respect, and purpose. There, the past no longer mattered. What mattered was the daily construction of a new reality, guided by truth and courage. They were happy. Chase, for his part, disappeared from social media for a while. He needed to distance himself from the judgment and the weight of his mistake. But his silence didn't last forever. Months later, he returned with a new stance. He publicly admitted his mistakes and began using his fortune to support social projects, including Emily's Institute.
Chase's transformation didn't erase the past, but it showed that change is possible when the heart opens to learning. He donated a significant portion of his inheritance to Emily's programs, trying to somehow repair the damage he had caused. The audience saw a real lesson in humility and growth. Emily, Jake, and Chase followed intertwined paths, but each respected their own time and space. Their relationship changed, gaining maturity and empathy. It was no longer about bets or disputes, but about humanity, forgiveness, and understanding. What began as a foolish challenge became a learning opportunity for all. The viral story, the challenge, the true love, the overcoming, all of this became a symbol of a larger message to the world, that no one is defined by what they say, but by what they choose to build with courage, love, and truth. This was Emily's true victory and an invitation for everyone to recognize themselves beyond labels. Today, the Institute helps hundreds of women find and love themselves. Stories of transformation abound, inspired by the journey of the waitress who became a national symbol. The impact goes far beyond what a gamble could imagine. It's living proof that it's possible to rewrite one's own story. And in the end, what the audience was left with was a simple yet powerful message. You are never what they say you are. You are what you build with courage, love, and truth. Words that echo like a call to action for every person still struggling to be seen and respected as they deserve. This is the story of Emily Carter, a woman who, even in the face of absurdity, chose to transform herself. And with that choice, she changed not only her own life, but the lives of many around her. A true life lesson that goes beyond the gamble. This was Emily Carter's inspiring journey, a story of courage, resilience, and true love that reminds us that we are much more than life's challenges. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, comment, and share to inspire others. And to follow more real and moving stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here you'll always find content that touches hearts and transforms lives. Thanks for joining us. See you in the next video.